The outbreak that has turned deadly this morning, federal health officials confirmed that 4 people in 3 states have died from listeria, traced to cantaloupe from a Colorado farm. At least 2 other deaths could be related as well.
2023. Pre-cut cantaloupe kills 11 people across 44 states in a Salmonella outbreak. Over 400 hospitalized. And that's just one item. In fact, some groceries sitting in your cart right now can make you sick or even kill you. That's why today I'm exposing 10 deadly grocery items you should stop buying, plus 4 safe alternatives you should get instead. Let's get started. Number 10. Organic frozen berries. Various brands. Frozen berries seem like the perfect healthy choice. Packed with antioxidants, convenient, and they last forever in your freezer. You toss them in your smoothies, oatmeal, yogurt even. Except frozen berries have been linked to multiple Hepatitis A outbreaks over the past decade, and the numbers are genuinely alarming. In 2013, Townsend Farms Organic Antioxidant Blend, sold at Costco, caused a Hepatitis A outbreak that sickened 165 people across 9 states. 71 people were hospitalized. 3 years later, in 2016, more Townsend Farms Organic Frozen berries, another outbreak, 87 people sick across 5 states. The contamination was traced to pomegranates imported from Turkey. Hepatitis A is a liver infection that causes jaundice, severe fatigue, nausea, and abdominal pain that can last for months. And terrifyingly, these berries were being blended into smoothies and consumed completely raw. No cooking step to kill the virus. People thought they were being healthy, drinking antioxidant-packed smoothies while actually consuming a virus that attacks the liver. The problem is the supply chain. Frozen berry mixes often contain fruit from multiple countries: Turkey, Egypt, Chile, all mixed together and packaged as organic or antioxidant blend. The organic label means no synthetic pesticides, but it absolutely does not mean no virus. In fact, because organic farming sometimes uses manure-based fertilizers, if proper composting doesn't happen, the contamination risk can actually be higher. Multiple brands have been affected over the years: Costco, Townsend Farms, Scenic Fruit Company, Wawana Packing. The recalls keep happening because the supply chains are so complex. Berries are sourced from multiple countries, frozen separately, then mixed together in the US. When an outbreak happens, tracing it back to the exact source becomes nearly impossible. And people buy these because they're trying to be healthy, get more nutrients, and eat organic. And they end up with a liver infection that can take half a year to fully recover from. But at least with frozen berries, you can see what you're buying. Number 9 hides something far more dangerous. Number 9, certain spices, turmeric and cinnamon. Spices seem like the last thing you'd worry about. They're dried, they last forever, they're just plants, right? Except a 2024 testing by Consumer Reports found that turmeric and cinnamon products contained dangerous levels of lead. The FDA recalled cinnamon applesauce pouches after children were hospitalized with lead poisoning. Lab testing found extremely high lead levels in the cinnamon used in these products. We're talking about elevated blood lead levels in kids who were just eating applesauce. Lead is a neurotoxin. There's no safe level of exposure, especially for children. It causes developmental delays, learning disabilities, and behavioral problems that can last a lifetime. And it's showing up in spices that millions of people use daily. The contamination comes from multiple sources. Some countries add lead compounds to spices to enhance color or add weight, literally adulterating the product for profit. Other times it's contaminated soil where the spices are grown. Either way, it ends up in your food. Turmeric is particularly bad. Testing found that certain brands contained lead levels up to 3 times California's Prop 65 limit. And because spices are imported from countries with weak regulations and only spot-checked at the border, contaminated products slip through constantly. You could be sprinkling lead onto your food every time you cook. Now, what about this next one that people deliberately eat raw, believing it's one of the healthiest choices they can make? Number 8. Raw sprouts. Alfalfa sprouts, bean sprouts, broccoli sprouts, all the sprouts. They show up in salads, sandwiches, and health-focused restaurants everywhere. They're marketed as superfoods packed with nutrients. What they don't tell you is that sprouts have caused 48 documented outbreaks since 1996, sickening thousands of people with E. coli and Salmonella. In 2022 alone, multiple sprout products were recalled for Salmonella contamination. The problem is how sprouts are grown. They need warm, humid conditions to germinate, which happens to be the exact same environment where bacteria thrive. If the seeds are contaminated before sprouting begins, the bacteria multiplies as the sprout grows. The CDC specifically warns immunocompromised people, elderly individuals, pregnant women, and children to avoid raw sprouts entirely. That's an official health warning based on decades of outbreaks. Even organic sprouts from reputable companies get recalled regularly. Here's what makes sprouts uniquely dangerous. You can't wash the bacteria away. Once it's inside the sprout during the growing process, it's there to stay. Cooking would kill it, but that defeats the entire purpose of eating sprouts. People eat them raw for the nutrients and crunch, and they get a bacteria delivery system on the side, and it keeps happening. Every few years, another outbreak, another recall, more people hospitalized. The sprout companies know this, the CDC knows this, but the products stay on shelves because technically they're legal to sell with proper warnings. Raw sprouts come with CDC warnings that most people ignore. But this next one doesn't even give you a warning. Number 7. Imported seafood. Shrimp, tilapia, catfish, imported from certain countries, have been found with illegal antibiotics, banned chemicals, and fecal contamination. FDA testing in 2019 discovered antibiotics in imported shrimp that aren't even approved for use in the United States. These are drugs that can cause antibiotic resistance and allergic reactions in humans. The problem is that only about 2% of imported seafood gets inspected by the FDA. The other 98% goes straight to grocery stores with zero testing. Countries like Vietnam, China, and Bangladesh have documented violations, but enforcement is nearly impossible when the volume is so massive. In 2023, Salmonella was detected in multiple shipments of imported shrimp. Testing also found residues of malachite green, a banned chemical linked to cancer. Farmed fish from certain regions are raised in water contaminated with sewage and industrial waste, then fed antibiotics to keep them alive long enough to harvest. Mislabeling is rampant, too. DNA testing has shown that wild-caught fish is often farm-raised. Gulf shrimp sometimes comes from overseas. You're paying premium prices for a product that's been fraudulently labeled and potentially contaminated, and consumers have no way to know. The seafood counter doesn't tell you which farm and which country your shrimp came from, or whether it was tested for antibiotics. You're just supposed to trust that the 2% inspection rate caught all the problems. Spoiler, it doesn't. At least imported seafood gets inspected 2% of the time. The next item proudly advertises that it skips the one safety step that could protect you. But hey, quick thing, if you're finding this valuable, hit subscribe. I dig into food safety issues like this regularly, and you'll want to catch the next one. Also, tell me in the comments, do you buy all your groceries from the store? And which grocery items do you buy most? I'd like to know. Alright, let's continue with number 6. Number 6. Unpasteurized juice and cider. Fresh-pressed juice sounds healthy. Cold-pressed, raw, unpasteurized. These buzzwords show up at health food stores and farmers markets everywhere. What they actually mean is dangerous. Unpasteurized juice has caused multiple E. coli and Salmonella outbreaks, including several deaths. In 1996, Odwalla apple juice killed a child and sickened 70 others with E. coli. The juice was made from apples that had fallen on the ground and were contaminated with animal waste. Because it wasn't pasteurized, the bacteria went straight into bottles and into people. The FDA now requires warning labels on all unpasteurized juice, but people ignore them or don't understand the risk. Between 2020 and 2023, several cold-pressed juice brands were recalled for pathogen contamination. The problem is that fruits and vegetables can carry bacteria from soil, water, or handling, and pressing them into juice concentrates that bacteria into liquid form. Apple cider from local farms is particularly risky. Apples that drop to the ground can be contaminated with E. coli from deer or livestock manure. If those apples go into a press without being washed and the cider isn't pasteurized, you're drinking liquid contaminated with fecal bacteria. Children, pregnant women, and elderly people are at highest risk. E. coli can cause kidney failure. Salmonella can be fatal. And all of this is preventable with pasteurization, which uses heat to kill pathogens while preserving most nutrients. But the raw juice trend has convinced people that pasteurization destroys health benefits, so they're taking deadly risk for minimal nutritional differences. Unpasteurized juice at least warns you on the label that it's dangerous. This next item is marketed as safe but has the largest recall in its category's history. Number 5. Frozen vegetables from certain facilities. Frozen vegetables seem safe. They're picked at peak ripeness, flash frozen, convenient. Except 2016 brought the largest frozen vegetable recall in U.S. history. CRF Frozen. Foods recalled 358 products across 42 brands due to listeria contamination. 11 people got sick, 1 died. The FDA inspected the processing facility and found listeria in the drains, on equipment, and throughout the plant. This wasn't a single contamination event. This was a facility that had systemic sanitation failures for an extended period. And because they supplied so many different brands, the contamination spread across the entire frozen vegetable market. Between 2021 and 2022, additional frozen corn and mixed vegetable products were recalled for listeria. The pattern keeps repeating because processing facilities handle massive volumes, and if cleaning protocols fail, listeria establishes itself in the environment and contaminates batch after batch. Listeria is particularly dangerous because it grows in refrigeration. Your freezer doesn't kill it, just slows it down. If you have contaminated frozen vegetables and you don't cook them thoroughly, you're eating active bacteria. And some people eat frozen vegetables straight from the bag, thinking they're pre-washed and safe. They're not. The recalls show that certain facilities have repeated violations, but they're allowed to keep operating while they fix the problems. Meanwhile, contaminated vegetables ship nationwide and people get sick. 1 death is too many for something as basic as frozen corn. But what about an ingredient so common? You probably have it in your kitchen right now. Number 4. Raw flour products. Flour seems harmless. It's been used for thousands of years. But what if I told you that raw flour is one of the most dangerous ingredients in your pantry? In 2016, General Mills recalled 10 million pounds of flour after an E. coli outbreak, hospitalized dozens of people across multiple states. The investigation found that people were getting sick from eating raw cookie dough made with contaminated flour. The problem is that flour is made from wheat that grows in open fields. Birds, rodents, and other animals walk through those fields, leaving behind fecal contamination. The wheat is harvested, ground into flour, and packaged. There's no heat treatment to kill bacteria because flour is expected to be cooked before consumption. But the edible cookie dough trend changed that. People started eating raw dough intentionally. Companies started selling cookie dough meant to be eaten raw, and outbreaks followed. In 2019, another flour recall, more illnesses, more hospitalizations. E. coli 0121 and 026, the strains found in flour, can cause bloody diarrhea, severe cramping, and kidney failure. Children are especially vulnerable. But flour looks clean and harmless. You'd never suspect that the white powder in your pantry could hospitalize you. Even a small amount of raw dough can make you sick. Licking the spoon while baking cookies, eating cake batter, these common behaviors carry real risk. The CDC has repeatedly warned against consuming any raw dough or batter, but people don't take it seriously until they're in the hospital. And this next item has killed more people in single outbreaks than most foodborne illnesses kill in entire years. Number 3. Pre-cut cantaloupe. Cantaloupe has one of the worst safety records of any produce item. In 2011, Jensen Farms cantaloupe killed 33 people in a listeria outbreak, 33 deaths from eating melon. It was the deadliest foodborne outbreak in nearly a century. The FDA investigated the farm and found that the packing equipment was old, impossible to clean properly, and covered in bacteria. The facility wasn't refrigerated, so melons sat at room temperature while listeria multiplied. Once those melons were cut, the bacteria spread to the flesh, and people died. Jump to 2023, and history repeated itself. Pre-cut cantaloupe caused a Salmonella outbreak that killed 11 people and sickened over 400 across 44 states. The melons were traced back to farms in Mexico, cut and packaged in the US, then sold at major grocery chains. Here's why cantaloupe is so dangerous. The rind is rough and netted, perfect for trapping bacteria. Even washing doesn't fully clean it. When you cut through that rind, your knife drags bacteria directly onto the flesh you're about to eat. If the melon sits at room temperature before or after cutting, bacteria multiplies exponentially. Pre-cut cantaloupe is even riskier because you have no control over how it was handled. Was the cutting equipment clean? Was it refrigerated immediately? How long has it been sitting in that plastic container? Whole cantaloupe gives you control. You can wash it, cut it fresh, and refrigerate it immediately. It's cheaper too. Pre-cut cantaloupe costs about 40% more per pound, and you're paying extra for increased contamination risk. But what about a grocery item that's in almost every refrigerator in America and has been recalled over 30 times in just 6 years? Number 2. Pre-cut bagged lettuce and salad mixes. Bagged salad seems convenient and harmless. Wash it, bag it, eat it. Except bagged lettuce has been linked to over 30 recalls between 2016 and 2022. Listeria, E. coli, Salmonella, all of them showing up in products labeled triple washed and ready to eat. Dole has had multiple listeria outbreaks in bagged lettuce. In 2021, their outbreak killed 2 people and sickened 17 across 13 states. In 2022, another Dole recall for Listeria. Fresh Express had recalls in 2020. The pattern repeats because the processing creates contamination opportunities. When lettuce is cut, it releases plant juices that feed bacteria. The lettuce goes into plastic bags where moisture builds up, creating a perfect environment for bacteria to multiply. Even refrigeration doesn't stop Listeria. It actually thrives in cold temperatures. By the time you open that bag, bacteria levels can be thousands of times higher than when it was packaged. The CDC has investigated dozens of lettuce-related outbreaks. Cross-contamination in processing facilities is a recurring problem. Equipment that's supposed to be sanitized between batches often isn't. One contaminated batch can spread bacteria throughout an entire production run. What frustrates me is that whole head lettuce, romaine hearts, butter lettuce are dramatically safer. The outer leaves protect the inner leaves from contamination. When you wash it at home under running water, you control the cleanliness. It takes maybe 2 extra minutes, costs 60% less, and doesn't come with a side of Listeria. Now that's just lettuce. But our number 1 item is a protein staple that's been linked to hundreds of deaths. Number 1. Deli meats and hot dogs. Now this is the item that should genuinely concern everyone. Deli meats and hot dogs are responsible for recurring Listeria outbreaks that kill people every few years. In 2024, a Boar's Head facility caused an outbreak that killed 10 people and hospitalized over 60 across 19 states. The USDA inspected the plant, and the findings are genuinely disturbing. Mold growing on walls and equipment, meat residue building up in places that should be cleaned daily, insects, puddles of blood and water on floors. Listeria was found throughout the facility, and this plant had been cited for violations repeatedly before the outbreak, but it kept operating. Deli meats are uniquely dangerous because they're ready to eat. There's no cooking step to kill bacteria before consumption. The slicing equipment at delis is nearly impossible to fully sanitize. And Listeria grows even more in refrigeration, so storing deli meat in your fridge doesn't make it safer, it actually allows bacteria to multiply. The CDC estimates that deli meats cause about 1,600 illnesses and 260 deaths every year in the United States. Every year. Pregnant women are told to avoid deli meat entirely because Listeria can cross the placenta and cause miscarriage or stillbirth. Elderly people and immunocompromised individuals also face a life-threatening risk. Hot dogs have the same problems. They're processed in facilities that handle massive volumes, so contamination spreads easily, and people often eat them without heating them to proper temperatures. Kids eat cold hot dogs straight from the package. That's a Listeria exposure waiting to happen. What makes me furious is that this is preventable. Facilities know proper sanitation protocols. Regulations exist, but enforcement is weak, and companies prioritize production speed over safety. People keep dying, and the system keeps allowing contaminated meat to ship. But enough of the doom and gloom. I didn't drag you through all of this just to terrify you. I also promised you solutions. So here are 4 grocery items you should buy instead with actual testing, better facilities, and real safety records. But first, if this video made you cancel out your grocery list, hit that like button and subscribe. And drop in the comments. Which of these 10 grocery items is your go-to? Will you still be getting them after today? I'd like to know. Alright, now on to the good ones. Number 1. Domestic wild-caught seafood. Instead of imported shrimp from countries with weak regulations, buy domestic wild-caught seafood. Alaska salmon, Pacific halibut, Gulf shrimp from U.S. waters. These have documented testing and traceability. The Marine Stewardship Council certification means the seafood was sustainably caught and traceable through the supply chain. Third-party labs test for mercury, antibiotics, and contaminants. The Monterey Bay Aquarium Seafood Watch app tells you which seafood is safe and sustainable. It costs more, but you're paying for actual safety standards and testing, not just hoping the 2% FDA inspection rate caught problems. Number 2. Heat-treated flour for baking. If you want to make edible cookie dough or eat raw batter, use heat-treated flour. King Arthur Baking Company sells flour specifically processed to kill bacteria, labeled safe for raw consumption. Or heat-treat regular flour at home by spreading it on a baking sheet and baking at 350 degrees for 5 minutes. Let it cool completely before using. Combine that with pasteurized eggs and you've got genuinely safe edible dough. Third-party testing confirms that proper heat treatment eliminates E. coli and Salmonella while maintaining flour functionality. This one simple step prevents the hospitalizations we saw in 2016 and 2019. Number 3. Whole head lettuce. Skip the bagged salad and buy whole romaine hearts. butter lettuce, or iceberg. The intact outer leaves protect inner leaves from contamination during growing and transport. When you wash it at home under running water, you control the cleaning process. Studies show whole head lettuce has dramatically lower bacterial counts than pre-cut bagged varieties. It costs about 60% less per pound, stays fresh longer, and doesn't carry the listeria risk of processed salad. Buy a salad spinner for $15 and you've got fresh, safe salad in under 3 minutes. The time savings of bagged lettuce isn't worth the outbreak risk. Number 04. Home roasted meat over deli slices. Instead of buying deli meat with its terrible safety record, roast a whole turkey breast or chicken at home. Season it however you like. Roast it to 165 degrees Fahrenheit internal temperature, let it cool, then slice it fresh. You control the entire process. No industrial slicing equipment, no facility violations, no listeria from contaminated plants. Store it in airtight containers and it lasts about 5 days, the same as deli meat. If you absolutely must buy deli meat, heat it to steaming hot, 165 degrees before eating. That kills listeria and makes it significantly safer, especially for pregnant women, elderly people, or anyone immunocompromised. And there you have it. The grocery system prioritizes profit over safety, and these 10 items prove it. Outbreaks keep happening, people keep getting sick, and contaminated products keep shipping. But now you know what to avoid and the 4 safer alternatives you should get instead. So tell me in the comments, are you shocked by any of these 10 grocery items? Which of them? I'd like to know. If this helped you, share it with your family or a friend who needs to see it. Like and subscribe so you do not miss our next investigation. Thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next one.